Hi, beautiful soul. Have you ever wondered why praying harder, thinking positive thoughts, or even pushing through your challenging or unpleasant emotions doesn't bring about the healing that you expect? The answer is actually pretty simple, and it even aligns with how God designed you. It's because your nervous system needs safety before true healing can begin. Faith based holistic healing is not about ignoring emotions, it's about helping your body, soul, and spirit finally come back into alignment. Hi, I'm Melanie Hope, and I created this channel to help other women experience healing, wholeness, and freedom using the truths and principles that God revealed to me on my own healing and transformation journey. Today, we're going to talk about an approach to regulating your nervous system that signals safety to your brain through faith based emotional attunement. But first, let's talk a little bit about regulation. It's the foundational R in what I call the 3 R's of healing: regulate, release, and rewire. I believe regulation is foundational to healing because trauma isn't just stored in your memories, it lives in your nervous system. When you experience fear, shame, overwhelm, or helplessness, your survival brain learns one thing: stay alive. And if your brain can't get back to a felt sense of safety, it can't heal. That's why regulation isn't about rushing through practices or checking off boxes in a daily to do list. It's about creating opposite experiences, ones that feel gentle, calm, loving, and supportive, so your body and soul know that they're safe. True regulation requires presence, and presence is built through self-attunement. If attunement is how intimacy grows in relationships, self-attunement is how you develop a loving, authentic relationship with yourself, your thoughts, emotions, body sensations, and needs. Healing happens inside of this loving container, much like a chrysalis for a butterfly. This is where true transformation becomes possible. And the beautiful truth is this: God is the ultimate example of attunement. Scripture tells us that He knows every thought, every emotion, even the very number of hairs on your head. God sees you fully, and He loves you completely. Before we go over the 4 steps of faith-based emotional attunement, let's just quickly talk about the 4 nervous system states that your body will go through depending upon its felt sense of safety. One really good reference is the polyvagal ladder. The polyvagal ladder is just a visual representation to see the different states that your body will move through based on how it has been activated. So on the polyvagal ladder, you start at the top, and this is the ideal state of being. This is when you are calm and regulated, and it is called the rest and digest state. This is where you feel the most connected, you feel the most at peace, and you feel the most safe. Then when you start coming down the ladder, you get about midway. This is when you start feeling activated. And this is going to be the states that most of us are familiar with. You're going to have your fight or flight state that comes next. And again, this is about midway on the ladder. And this is when you are going to feel anxious and tense and rushed. You might start to have feelings in this state like, I have to do something now. This is where you just want to react. You have energy being released in your body, and you want to either fight or you either want to flee. Then you go a little bit lower on the polyvagal ladder, still somewhat kind of in the middle, but below fight or flight, you have the freeze. This is kind of like a mix of the 2 states. This is where you're just feeling like stuck and overwhelmed. And you might be thinking something like, I want and I need to do something. I just don't know what it is. I just don't know what to do. And then further down the ladder at the very bottom, this is where you have the shutdown state. This is where you are just feeling numb. You're feeling exhausted and hopeless. And you might be thinking something like, I just can't. I can't do this anymore. In each one of these nervous system states, you're going to have body sensations that come along with these activations. And it's your body sensations that are going to help you understand where you're at on the polyvagal ladder, what state of nervous system activation that you were in. Self-attunement is what helps you listen to your body's sensations so you can respond with care instead of judgment. And no matter where you're at on that ladder, your survival brain needs to hear the same message. You are safe. You matter. You are not alone. So let's talk about a process that you can turn to when difficult or overwhelming emotions arise so that you can turn to yourself with care and with support that is void of any judgment or shaming. This process is what I refer to as the 4 S's of faith-based emotional attunement. They are see, speak, seek, and shine. So let's talk about the first step, which is to see. And the scripture reference for this step is going to be Ephesians 5:13, which says, everything exposed by light becomes visible, and everything that is illuminated becomes a light. This verse is so insightful because I have talked before about how trauma thrives in the dark, and difficult and painful emotions are actually the same way. A lot of times we get convinced that burying our emotions or pretending like they aren't there anymore, just pushing through them and ignoring them, is actually how we can get over them and it is a form of strength, when really it's the opposite effect, and that's keeping them in the dark. And this verse is saying that everything that is exposed by the light, it not only becomes visible, but when it's illuminated, it becomes a light. And that's essentially saying that when we actually shine a light on these emotions, when we see them and we notice them and we name them, it's actually a form of empowerment, because we are now going to use that emotion to help us in our healing process. And essentially, that's what emotions are to begin with. They're just simply messengers. They're just trying to tell you something. They're actually trying to show you where you need deeper healing. They're trying to point to the place in your soul that is actually ready to experience God's healing. And so the truth that we get from this verse is that trauma heals in the light, because what's exposed to loving light can finally begin to transform. So, in this first step of seeing your emotions, like I said, you're just simply noticing what you feel here, and you're going to try to name what you're feeling. It's as simple as saying, I'm feeling angry. I feel grief. I feel sadness. I feel scared. And I remember in the early stages of my own healing, it was actually really challenging for me to name emotions other than the basic ones I just said, which are okay. Most of the time, we really are feeling these same core emotions, but sometimes they do go deeper than that. And sometimes you might be angry on the surface, but if you go deeper, you might realize that there's something under the anger. And so I found that getting an emotion wheel was really helpful. So I highly suggest doing that. Or you can even go to a website that will just give you a list of all the emotions. Sometimes it helps to just read through a list of emotions, and it can kind of trigger something in you to be like, yeah, that's how I'm feeling. Because sometimes it can be hard to put an actual name or label to the feeling. But once you can do that, the name reduces the emotion's power. It's actually really an amazing experience to just be a part of in real time. When you're really angry about something and you simply just say, I am so angry, when you just name it and your brain hears it out loud, and it's just like this instant sense of relief. This happens actually with children too. When they are overwhelmed, if it's even harder obviously for them to put a name to it. They don't know at all what they're feeling a lot of times. But if you as an adult can come into the situation and can validate their feelings by saying, I see that you're feeling really frustrated right now, or, I see that you're really sad about this, just naming that what they're feeling for them. It's amazing to see how you can watch in real time their nervous system just starting to calm and settle. So there's something really powerful about seeing your emotion, witnessing it, noticing it, and naming it. It reminds your brain what the emotion actually is. It's simply energy in motion, and it just needs to move through you. It's not who you are, though. It's not an identity of yours. It's just simply something that you're feeling in the moment. So once you see your emotion, you're going to move on to the second step, which is to speak. And we're going to use Proverbs 18:21 as a reference to this step, which says, Death and life are in the power of the tongue. This means that anything that you speak, it can either bring death or it can bring life to you. This is why there's something actually very powerful to speaking positivity, speaking words of affirmation over your life. Although in more new age approaches, they don't really base that on the truth of God's word. I believe that becomes an even more powerful practice when you're declaring God's truth, when you're not just speaking affirmations of things that you, out of your own human heart or mind, desire or are hoping for in your life, but you are actually declaring God's truth and his promises over yourself. Something really powerful happens when you speak that truth. So you are going to speak a validation to yourself, and you're going to use a simple somatic touch to do that. You're just going to place your hand on your body wherever you're feeling the emotion most intensely. So, for example, if you are in an activated state, like a fight or flight state, you might feel tightness in your chest. You might feel anxiety. So you would just simply place your hand over wherever you're feeling that the most. And you're just going to say something validating to yourself. It's okay. You're not alone. What you're feeling matters because you matter. You're just going to speak a simple line or two to allow your brain to hear the fact that you matter, you're not alone, your feelings matter. And that simple touch is going to signal presence to your body, and it's also going to send a message to your nervous system that you are safe, because your body's language is sensations. So when you bring a touch to your body, you're feeling the sensation of your hand wherever you're placing your hand. You're feeling the warmth, you're feeling whatever you're feeling. It's a sensation that's going to signal to your brain, I'm safe. In this present moment, I'm safe. And then you're going to pair it with validating words. So once you have seen your emotions and named what you're feeling, and then spoken to yourself validating words, you're going to move on to the third step, which is seek. And we're going to use two verses as a reference for this one. The first one is Matthew 11:28. And this is where Jesus invites us, saying, Come to me, all who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. And then 1 Peter 5:7, where he tells us to cast all your anxieties onto him because he cares for you. Both of these verses are reminders that Jesus is just waiting to be sought. He wants us to seek him. He wants us to ask for his help. He's inviting us to lay our burdens at his feet. He's inviting us to yoke ourselves to him, meaning join with him and walk this life with him and allow him to carry our burdens for us. He's reminding us that we don't have to do this alone. So, in this process of faith based emotional attunement, we've seen what we're feeling. We've spoken to our body and our brain to allow it to feel safe in the moment. And now we're going to seek God and we're going to invite him into the moment with us. You're going to ask Jesus to meet you right where you are. And you're going to cast that emotion onto him. It's a spiritual transaction. It's a holy surrender. You can incorporate visualizations into this step as well. This will help show your brain through its language of imagery that Jesus is helping you carry the weight. This can be anything that comes into your mind. You can pray, you can ask him to generate images in your mind that will represent him carrying the burden of that weight for you, helping you, that you no longer have to carry it. Within my Victorious program, one of the victory visualizations that we focus on is called the Healing Mountain. And one of those images is hiking up a treacherous mountain and carrying this pack. And the pack represents just heavy emotions and just day to day tasks and just anything in your life that is challenging. It also represents trauma from the past, just heavy burdens of life. And you visualize yourself trying to carry this pack, and then eventually it might get to a place where it's too heavy. And you visualize yourself taking it off or unloading items from it so that it's no longer so heavy. However, you do that in your own mind, it's an image and a picture that you are removing some of the burden and weight from yourself, and he's taking it for you. He's lightening your load and just putting a visual representation of what's happening in the spiritual or in the emotional or in the mental can help just show your brain like a tangible evidence that he is carrying that burden for you. When you release control and you trust Jesus to carry the weight of your emotions, your nervous system will experience relief that nothing else can replace. And then once you have moved through seeing, speaking, seeking, you're going to go to the fourth step, which is to shine. And the verse that we're going to use for this one is John 1:5. It says, "The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it." This step is about gently shining loving light into your body and soul. And you're going to do that by turning to a pleasant, grounding experience. So you have felt and you have acknowledged that painful or overwhelming emotion. You invited Jesus into the moment and asked him to help you carry the burden of that emotion that was once in the darkness. And now, in the last step, you are going to shine light into that part of you, into your body, and into your soul that's going to give back, that's going to bring peace, that's going to show love, that is going to show care to your body and soul. This is just going to be something that's going to help you move back up the polyvagal ladder. So that overwhelming emotion that you were once experiencing, that activated you and sent you down the polyvagal ladder. Now, when you get to the fourth step of shining light back into your soul, your mind and your emotions and into your body, this is going to be a practice that helps move you back up the ladder towards that rest and digest nervous system state where you are at most peace and where you feel most safe. This would be anything that brings joy to you, anything that makes you smile, anything that makes you feel good. When we're talking about a faith-based approach to healing, this can be worship, praise and worship music, and you can incorporate gentle somatic movements in while you're listening to the music. This can be going out into nature. This can be using your five senses and just pay attention to the things that you see, to the things that you smell, that you hear, that you feel, that you taste, that bring soothing and calm to your body. This can be a breathing practice to help you be present and mindful in the moment and just bring calm and regulation to your nervous system. Or any simple soul soothing activity that brings you joy or a peace or a felt sense of safety. I have another video where I went over 3 faith-based holistic healing practices, and 2 of them would be really good for shining light into your soul and body. One is the praise power practice, and the other one is flooding your gates with goodness. I'm also going to be doing another video after this one that is going to have 7 simple soul hacks. So any of those would also be really simple practices that you could turn to. I've also talked about glimmers. Glimmers are like the opposite of a trigger. These are just moments throughout your day in your environment that you notice something that just like brings you a smile, that just brings you what I call the warm fuzzies, just makes you feel good. It could be a person, it could be a flower, it could be a song, it could be your pet, it could be anything. It could be using your favorite mug with your favorite cup of hot tea. It could just be any little moment in your day that you notice makes you smile. So you could turn to any one of those things in this fourth step. It's just something that brings you peace and it brings you calm and it makes you happy. It lifts your spirit, ultimately shines loving light into your body and soul, and it helps you move back up that polyvagal ladder. This gives your nervous system the break that it needs to rewire old patterns and create new ones of peace, safety, love, and support. Remember, emotions aren't good or bad. They're simply messengers. Even the difficult ones can reveal the places in your heart that need healing and care. Suppressing painful emotions doesn't heal them. In fact, what we keep buried in the darkness often continues to hurt us there. Pain thrives when it's silenced, ignored, or pushed away. But when emotions are brought into the light with a loving awareness, safety, and God's presence, they can finally begin to heal. This is the heart of faith-based holistic healing, inviting God into the emotional, spiritual, and even physical places that pain has been living. Because healing isn't about avoiding what you feel. It's about learning how to hold your emotions with God so they can move through you instead of staying trapped inside of you. If you're interested in learning more about a faith-based approach to healing from trauma, I hope to see you in my next video where I'm going to go over 7 simple soul hacks to support nervous system regulation. Real quick though, before I go, if a faith-based approach to healing from trauma resonates with you, but piecing a program together on your own feels too overwhelming or time-consuming, that's exactly why I created my Victorious program. It's a 3-phase, faith-based, holistic trauma healing journey for women that walks you step by step through regulating your nervous system, releasing stored trauma from your body and rewiring your brain using God's powerful truth, while also cultivating a deep faith that invites God's healing power into every part of you, body, soul, and spirit. Inside Victorious, you'll learn how to gently process what you've been carrying, restore inner safety, renew core beliefs, and experience a healing that transforms your daily life. If you're ready to experience healing, wholeness, and freedom in your body, soul, and spirit, I want to invite you on a free 15-minute phone call to help you discern if the Victorious program would be right for you. It's a no pressure, safe space to prayerfully consider where you're at, where you hope to be, and if Victorious can help you achieve that. You can click the link in the description to schedule your phone call, and you'll also find a Victorious link to learn more about the program. You don't have to stay stuck where you are. Victory is already yours through Jesus, and a faith-based, holistic approach to healing is how you come into agreement with it.